All right, hey everyone, my name is Kai and I am here to present to you day one of our three-part iClone webinar series from A to Z, creating an iClone scene. So hopefully everyone can see the screen right now and everyone can hear me. We're going to be presenting a three-part webinar like I mentioned. Today we're going to be talking about creating a scene, and tomorrow part two we're going to be talking about character animation and a little bit of camera work. And then in part three I'm going to be joined by my good friend Chris Morris, who's going to be presenting how to refine this scene and light it up and make it look all beautiful and everything like that as well. Now, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, so if you have any questions you want to pose to me, feel free to put those in the questions section of your GoToWebinar panel there. There's a little question section there, and we'll answer those within the last probably 5-10 minutes of the webinar. Yeah, basically that's it. We're also going to be sending out a survey for you guys as well, so make sure you fill out that survey for us, and we'll be giving you a 10% discount for any stuff you purchase from the content store. All right, so a 10% discount for any purchase from the content store. We'll be providing you with a code and all that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much all I need to mention at the beginning, I believe. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the questions section at any time, and we'll get to those at the end of the webinar like I mentioned. Okay. So let's get started with a little brief overview here. I'm on the webinar page right now. So this is the day one introductory scene right here, introduction and scene that we're going to be talking about. So the things we're going to be talking about today are prop import from 3D Warehouse. I'm going to be showing you how to download and import a prop from the 3D Warehouse. We're also going to be talking about prop customization in iClone, and we're going to be using a little bit of Blender as well. And we're also going to be talking about assigning and customizing substance materials within iClone. All that sort of fun stuff, a little bit of simple lighting. I'm going to be just kind of giving you a brief overview of lighting and all that stuff. And then also some simple character creation. If we have time at the end, I'll give you a brief overview of the character creator software as well. And again, any questions, I will be able to address those questions at the end of the webinar. So I guess, yeah, without any further ado, I've also put a link in the chat section of your GoToWebinar panel. There's a YouTube link in the chat section. That's going to be this link right here. You can play this back, on your own time. I'm not going to play it back for you in this presentation here, but this is basically the end result that we're going to have after day three. So we have a little bit about scene creation in this webinar, like I mentioned today. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about animating the characters, and third day with Chris, we're going to be refining and really making that scene beautiful. Ready for a final presentation and final rendering using global illumination, image-based lighting, and all that sort of fun stuff. So make sure you check out this video on your own time. It'll play back a lot faster for you guys. You'll get better results if you play it on your own computer, as opposed to me playing it for you here. So let's get started. Yeah, without any further ado, like I mentioned, here's the little outline you can check. I'll put this. I'll put this link in the chat window as well for you guys, just so you can kind of take a look at the overview that we're going to be going through here. Just been drinking some soda pop here. All right, anyway, so in iClone, here we are in iClone. We are, and also I might want to mention as well, we're recording this webinar. So if anything goes too fast for you, or if you have any questions that we didn't answer or anything, we'll be recording this for you. We'll be providing a link for you at the end. So we'll be sending out a link to you guys in the email. And again, you can also email me as well at kai@reallusion.com. That's KAI@reallusion.com, and I'll give you that at the end of the webinar again, if you, in case you forget or are not able to capture that pretty simple email, kai@reallusion.com. All right, so we're going to start off with is a scene that comes embedded with iClone here. Here I am in iClone, and you can find this scene in your projects tab if you want to follow along at any point. On your content manager, under projects, you'll find this loft scene under projects. You need to go to number 2, global illumination, this folder here, and you'll find a loft scene. This is the one that we have currently on the screen right now. And if I just play it back, you can see we have some nifty little camera work here. Nice, slow dramatic movement throughout this loft scene here. Up the stairs and everything. And yeah, a nice view of our loft. You can see the nice, beautiful lighting and all this fun stuff. So this is the scene that we're going to be kind of modifying and adjusting a little bit. I'm going to be importing some stuff into it throughout this webinar. So again, yeah, looks pretty good. We're going to just take the lighting off and everything in just a moment here. I'm going to show you how to kind of lighten up this scene, because when you're kind of adjusting the scene or making modifications to it, it's I'd really recommend, kind of try to keep the scene as lightweight as possible, just to save resources for your scene. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is we're going to go over here to the scene manager and take a look at all the stuff we have in this scene. Now I'm going to go to my preview camera here on the top. So go to preview camera, switch out. I'm using a laptop right now that I've had for a couple years, so it's not going to be the best computer for this particular, for heavy duty lighting or global illumination and all that stuff. So I'm going to show you how to kind of lighten your scene first of all. So the first thing I want to do here is under sky here in the scene manager. Under sky, we have a sky that we can select, and you can go to the materials here, and you can just delete the glow map on the sky. That's a really good way to lighten the load. And if I zoom out all the way here, you can see that this project is just like a simple box basically that's disembodied in a kind of like a purgatory type scene with just a glowing white background, glowing white sky. So what I'm going to do for the purposes of this webinar, since we don't need to have anything beautiful at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the sky. So we have delete the sky, and outside is just a black void, black gray void at this moment here. Okay, and we also don't need all these cameras here because I'm just going to be focusing on just the preview camera. So I can hold shift and select all these cameras here and delete all those cameras, and then all the lights as well. So we have a number of different lights here. We have global illumination enabled. If you want to disable global illumination, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play back the scene really quick, and I want you to pay attention to the FPS, or otherwise known as frames per second, on the top left here. Okay, so my computer, like I mentioned, is a laptop and it's 2 years old. So when I play back, I'm getting about 18 frames a second, which is pretty slow because we have global illumination on, which takes a lot of resources. And that's why we're having Chris with it on day 3 doing all the global illumination stuff because he has a super powered Hercules computer. So I'm just going to go ahead and disable the global illumination for the purposes of this webinar here. You can do that by going up here on the top and disable global illumination. You'll find a lot of the light goes out of the scene. Okay, and you can just also deselect viewport GI as well. So that means global illumination has been disabled. All right, you can also go over here to visuals, and under visuals you can disable stuff like fog. We don't need fog for the purposes of this webinar here. You can take off the HDR effect. We can take off image-based lighting. Okay, so everything on the screen that we have right now is just iClone, just your basic iClone lights. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize the lighting here for you. We took off all that other stuff, and if you want to find out more about all these things like IBL, global illumination, and HDR and everything, make sure you check out Chris in part 3 of our webinar to make the scene more beautiful and talk in detail about the lighting and stuff. There's also some YouTube videos, YouTube tutorials on our Reallusion channel as well. Okay, so yeah, let's take a look at the lights. We have scene lights. We have a number of different lights here. You can see the directional lights that we have right here. If we make those visible, there's a fill light up here that is actually a spotlight. There's another fill light over here, and they're all kind of just focusing on the main center of the scene here. This fill light over here, if we turn that one off, that's kind of like facing that direction. You can see it kind of over there. You can turn your lights on and off by pressing this little button here. Okay, so now you can see all of our lights are off. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to delete all the lights. I'm going to hold shift and select and delete all the lights. And then you can see the scene is actually still lit a little bit. And you're probably wondering why do we still have lighting in the scene? That's because if we go over here to our visual tab, we have our ambient light color. Okay, if we click on this ambient light color swatch right here, you can see that it's not really totally black. It's kind of like a really dark gray. So if you take that all the way down to black, boom, there we'll have, it'll take out all of the lights there. And this one light over here, I believe, is just a prop light. If I select this one over here, select this, and I think it's, yeah, so this is a prop light. If we go to scene here, you can see this is a pendant lamp. And I'll show you where to find those in just a moment here. And you can see this pendant lamp includes a number of different spotlights. So if I just delete this pendant lamp, then we have a pitch black scene. Oops, and I think there's one over here too on the wall. Anyways, this lights, I think this is another one here. There's a floor lamp. A number of different lights that are props as well. I believe if I, let's make our ambient lighting a little bit higher there. Okay, yeah, so there are these things. All right, so this is the spotlight, and right here another pendant lamp, we can just, whoops, select both of those and delete them as well. Okay, so, those are just the lights in the scene. If you want to take them out, you can, add your own or what have you. I'm going to press Control Z and undo that just to bring those lights back in. And then you can actually disable these lights one by one. Turn them off over here on the right under the Modify tab. All right, take them off one by one. And you can also modify those values as well, which Chris will talk more about in the third part of the webinar. So all the lighting parameters and values here, we'll talk more about that later. Okay, let's just keep it like this. Now, basically the ultimate way to save resources in your scene when you're just editing, before you're doing all the lighting, before you're doing all the character animation, when you're just doing the camera work, or just doing the scene creation, what I like to use is this auxiliary light right here. Okay, so auxiliary light is kind of like a flat, basic light that lights up your entire scene. It's like a basic, flat, ambient light that lights up your entire scene. So this is a good light to use, when you're just, adjusting stuff. So now if I play back, take a look at the frames per second in the top left, if you can kind of see it there. Now we're at, pure 60. Okay, so 60 frames a second. And so, when you're doing your animation and your scene creation, I'd recommend trying to keep your scene as light as possible, just to save resources, especially if you're on an older laptop like mine. Probably for future webinars, I'll be using a much better computer for stuff like Popcorn and stuff, new plugins that we'll have in the future. But I kind of have a connection, I guess, with this old laptop I have. Anyways, so okay, let's move on to the next part here. All right, so we've taken all the unnecessary stuff out of our scene as well. Now, one thing I also want to do is get rid of these walls, because these walls are kind of annoying me here. Now you can see that our entire scene here is basically under this hierarchy of this parent object called scene. Okay, so if I make this entire scene invisible, it's going to take everything out of our scene. All right, so it's all kind of down here. However, there's also a section called wall. I'm just going to make the wall invisible. All right, so you can delete make all the walls invisible. And just to avoid accidentally selecting the wall, I'm also going to press this button here that actually causes us to lock the wall. Okay, so if I accidentally click over here, it's not going to select the wall. Whereas if I have it unlocked, I can select over here and it'll select the wall. Okay, and then I can move the wall around and stuff. So just kind of put a lock on stuff that you don't want to be selected accidentally or not. Okay, just put the lock on there, and so now we don't have to worry about accidentally selecting the wall or anything. So we can move all the way back here. We can select this TV, for example, even though we're clicking right through the wall. Okay, now another thing to mention as well is if you have a situation where you're like you're in the world movement gizmo or something like this, or you just kind of click over here somewhere, and you want to just select any item in your scene that's under a hierarchy. Sometimes it can be difficult to select an object, because it's under a hierarchy of other objects and stuff like this. So what you want to do is you want to press the Q hotkey. Okay, so the Q hotkey, and you'll see a mouse cursor that looks like this one. All right, so take a look at the mouse cursor right there once you press Q. Then once you press Q, you can actually select any object within that hierarchy, regardless of the hierarchy it's in. We can even go so far as, I think, to select these pillows right here as well. So there's individual pillows. So this is the third layer of hierarchy. So there's pillow C, sofa, and then the parent object is scene. So this is a really useful way to learn how to select objects just from your viewport right here. Press the Q hotkey, you'll see this cursor appear, and then you can select objects this way as well. Right? I don't think I need those trees in here either, so let's get rid of those trees for now. All right. Just to clean up the scene a little bit. Okay, so we have this very, very basic scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to actually create our own prop here. We're going to import a prop into Blender, and I'm going to show you how to export a prop from iClone via FBX file and bring it into Blender. So let's go ahead. I'm going to do a little bit of remodeling in this scene here. I'm going to select this shelf, and we're just going to delete the entire shelf. Okay, because we're going to go for some sort of like open concept here. All right, so let's go ahead and take this table over here. I'm going to move this table, pressing the W hotkey, and I'm going to click the yellow little gizmo there and bring it all the way over here. And we can rotate it as well by pressing the E hotkey. E is for rotate, okay? And notice that when I rotate it, on the right side here under the transform values, you'll see the Z value, I believe, will change. Okay, so the Z value is the basically the up and down on the 3D plane value. And we'll just change this to type in a value of 90 just to give it a nice right angle here. All right, so we'll just kind of place it right behind our table, our sofa rather there, midway between the sofa and the kitchen. All right, because we're going to be putting something in that corner a little bit later. Hint, it's a desk. All right. So first of all, what I'm going to do is we're going to, you can see we have this dining table selected. So we're going to export this and break it apart in Blender because, you know, certain situations, if I select the chairs, for example, you can see these chairs, it comes as a set of 4. So if I press the W hotkey, they're going to move as 4 altogether. And you can see that there's no further hierarchy right here. So basically the only way you can move these chairs, the only way you can adjust them is all together. So if I go into materials and, you know, I go into this adjust color panel right here and I adjust anything, it's going to adjust all of them. So if I, you know, take the brightness down, you can see it'll adjust all of them. So we can have a more, you know, dark gray with kind of teak colored legs right there. But it adjusts all of them, you know, simultaneously. Now, in a lot of cases, you'll want that. But if you don't want that, for example, if you wanted to be able to manipulate these chairs separately, well, what you can do is you can, unfortunately in iClone, you can't break apart the mesh, but that's what Blender is for. So Blender is a, you know, a free program that you can use to, you know, modify, you can model, you can modify, you can break apart meshes and all this fun stuff. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So let's select these, with these chairs selected, I'm gonna go up here to File and Export. Now you can also export FBX if you have your chairs selected and you go over here to edit in 3D Exchange. So this is a 3D Exchange method that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to export, using the File menu here, and we'll go to File, Export, and this is mainly used for characters, but you can also use it for props as well, which I like to do. Go to Export FBX here, and luckily we have a target tool preset for Blender. So just select the Blender one, and it'll be you know, perfectly useful for you know, modifying it in Blender. But before we do that, I forgot to mention one thing before we do that here. Let's cancel that. It's just easier this way to do it this way temporarily. What you want to do is you want to zero out your transform values as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just press 0, 0, and 0 for all my transform values here. And let's just press reset and 0 out. Okay. So I'll put our set of chairs over here, and this is where the world axis is. Okay. The world axis is kind of just where the middle of our scene is supposed to be. Okay, so have everything zeroed out because it's easier to modify in Blender when you do this. Okay, so just press reset, 0 out under transform, and then do the file export thing. And then you can move it back later if you want. Okay, so let's go with export FBX here. Blender, export your current frame, embed the textures. You don't need to worry about this stuff for now. It's mainly used for characters, but let's go ahead and just export this. And I'm going to call it chair set. Okay, that's just there's a previous run through I went. I have chair set on there as well. Misspelled it. All right, so let's just save this to our desktop as an FBX. Boom. All right, simple and easy. It's all done. So here's our chair set.fbx. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Blender now, which I already have loaded up, and it comes with this, you know, default cube in the middle of your screen there. To select a mesh in Blender, just right-click it, and if I want to delete it, just press the X button. And it'll say delete, press enter for OK. All right, so we've deleted that mesh. Blender uses a lot of hotkeys, which I'm not too keen on. You know, I'd like it to be a bit more intuitive in some cases, but you know, there's a lot of veteran users of Blender who are wizards with it. So a lot of tutorials out there as well. I'm just going to go through some of the basics for you here, okay, to break apart our table and chairs here, our set of chairs rather. So I'm going to go to File and Import and FBX, and I'm going to go to my desktop where we have that chair set.fbx and just load that in. Okay, and you can see because I centered it in iClone before I exported it, it's going to be centered right in the middle of Blender. If you don't do that, if you don't reset all the values and everything, it could be like off to the side or, you know, scaled differently or something like that. So before you export, I'd recommend, you know, just zeroing out like I showed you how to do in iClone there. Okay, so in Blender, you can hold your middle mouse button, the scroll wheel in my case, to kind of, you know, pan around your selected object here. You can also hold Shift and your middle mouse button to dolly back and forth like this. Okay, and scroll your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. That's your basic Blender, you know, camera movement, I guess you can say. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go take a top-down view here, And we're going to go from object mode. We're going to select edit mode. Okay, you can tab back and forth from object to edit mode by pressing tab. Okay, so we want to go into edit mode, and I want to press the Z hotkey to go into wireframe mode as well. Okay, now what you can do is I'm going to just right click on one of our objects here. Let's actually just right click here, and there we go. Okay, there we go. And now we're in edit mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the control key, and I'm going to click and drag on the stuff that I don't want. Okay, so in this case, we're just kind of lassoing all these meshes right here. And I want to make sure I press the Z hotkey to go into wireframe mode here. You can press the Z hotkey to tab, or to rather toggle back and forth between these modes here. Let's just select that one more time here. Because in the wireframe mode, it'll select all the faces. Okay, so you can see within the object mode, or rather in the mesh mode there, it didn't select all the faces. So now we have all the vertices selected on the bottom and the top as well. I can just press delete and delete the vertices. Okay, boom. Now we have one chair, and then there was one. All right, so I can press the Z hotkey to go back into object, or rather mesh mode here, and then tab to go back into object mode. And here we have this single lonely chair. All right, so basically that's it. That's how you can kind of just, select meshes. That's the easiest way to do it for me. You can do it in more detailed scenarios as well, but this is a very simple kind of example here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select File and go over here to Export and Export to FBX. We'll select our desktop, and we'll just call it single chair, single and looking chair. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and export FBX here. All right, and boom, we're done with Blender. Okay, so that's your simple introduction to Blender. There's tons of tutorials on Blender stuff, so we'll just, without much more ado, we'll just kind of close that down. And single chair, there we go. Okay, so now we have our single chair. So what I need to do now is bring that into 3D Exchange. Now with 3D Exchange, if you want to import stuff into iClone, you only need the Pro version. However, if you want to export from iClone to other software and other formats, you'll need the pipeline version. Okay, so keep that in mind. Just a little, preface there. For what you want to do, depending on what you want to do, you might need different versions of 3D Exchange. Okay, now I can just simply click and drag the file in if I want. Single chair, click and drag it into Blender, or not Blender, 3D Exchange here. We don't need to import any animation. You can just go ahead and deselect that, and go ahead and press OK. And boom, here is our chair in 3D Exchange. All right, sure, whoops, okay, my camera wasn't working there for a while. Okay, so here's our chair, like I mentioned. And if you want to check the scale of your objects in 3D Exchange, a useful way to do that is to go ahead and press Control D or press this dummy button up here, and you can see the actual size of a real person in iClone. Okay, and then what I want to do as well is go to Align to Ground, and that's going to center our object on the ground axis. You can see if I press this button right here, that's the world axis. Let's make our dummy invisible for now. Okay, so you can see the green, blue, and red axes right there. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead with the object selected as well. And where do we want to do here? We want to go down to, let's make sure we select our object first. We want to select all the faces here. There we go. And then in normal here, we want to go ahead and kind of, you can see the edges are a little bit jagged in some places here, especially along the curvature. So what you want to do is select all the meshes here by holding Shift and selecting all the meshes, and make sure you select Weld Vertex and just select Auto Smooth. Okay, and that'll kind of smooth things out generally. Let's Control Z that actually. Maybe we selected too much here. There we go. It's not all right. It's doing that. Okay, well, generally that works. You may need to change the value here, the value for maybe to something like 80. Always something pops up, eh? Okay, there we go. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better than it previously did. So we've kind of smoothed it out there. It's a little bit twisted now. My goodness. Okay, anyways, you should just mess around with these values here. Okay, we'll just stick with the 45. All right, anyways. Now, another thing you want to make sure you take care of as well as under materials here. Sometimes it'll occasionally import in with your diffuse channel here. The strength will be at 80. You want to make sure that's at 100. Okay, so you want to make sure it's at 100, otherwise you'll have washed out colors when you import into iClone. And then pretty much that's it. So what you can do now is you can go over here to, at the top, you can apply to iClone, or you can go over here to import, export, and you can export it to a separate iProp or anything like that. I prefer just go apply to iClone here, and it'll just pop up in the middle of our scene right here. There we go. There's our new chair in iClone. Okay, so new chair, just like the old chairs. Okay, and you can see the colors and everything are exactly the same. So let's go ahead and delete our old set of chairs there. Whoops, press the Q hotkey again. Delete our old set of chairs there, and take this one, this new chair. Let's bring her over here. Okay, and I'm going to just rotate it 90 degrees on the Z-axis. There we go. Now, if you want to make copies of your chair, very easily done. All you want to do is hold the Control key and click and drag on your gizmo here, and it'll create an identical copy of that chair. All right, and then you can hold Control and select both of these chairs, and then hold Control and click and drag, and it'll make more copies. All right, so you can multiply them, and we'll just twirl these around like this. All right, good enough. I'm not too concerned about the values here. We have other things to take care of in this webinar. All right, so we'll just kind of bring those over here. And if you want to, connect them all together again, well, that's easily done. You can just hold Control and click on all these chairs here. You can see them in the scene manager. We'll just actually select all these copies here. And then you can just go ahead and attach or link your object or attach it. Attaching will be permanent, okay? But we're just going to go ahead and you can see attach to right here, and just pick parent, and then pick the single chair right there. Okay, so then when you select this chair, you can move it around like that. And now if you want to save these chairs as a separate object, just go to your Content tab under Props, and go to your Custom tab here, and Custom under the Props folder. Just press the plus key, and save it as chair set. Okay. And there you go. Now you have this set of chairs you can bring in anytime. Right? Boom. So now we have 8 chairs. Okay, so that's just simple procedure on how to modify all this stuff. And you can modify these chairs one by one as well. Go to the materials, and if you want to change the base color of this chair, again, go to adjust color. Maybe change the hue a little bit. Okay, but you can see the hue it'll basically make the entire chair change. So if we change the brightness, it'll link all the chairs together just like this, okay? And because they're all attached together. Now one thing we can do as well is we can go ahead and launch our material for our chair, our base color right here, launch it in Photoshop using this little button over here. And we can change the color really easily on the chair separately. So we don't want to change the color of the legs. We like that wooden color right there. But let's just go ahead and use this, maybe do a nice retro kind of color. Yeah, this yellow color, or pea soup green will do, I guess. And we'll just kind of use our fill tool here and fill it in like that, and then just fill in these little areas here. And then go File and Save. And go ahead and save that. And then back in iClone, boom. Now we have some yellow pea soup, whatever kind of color you want to call that chairs, all right? And there we go. Looks a lot more retro. And because I've attached those to the first chair there, it'll kind of distribute that color change through all the other chairs as well. So a really quick way to kind of save stuff as groups and modify the materials all together. All right. Okay, what's next? Let's go ahead and bring in something from 3D Warehouse. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's go to our Google Chrome here. And we have a 3D Warehouse tab already opened. I found this cool model for a stand-up arcade. I just typed in stand-up arcade here. There's a cool kind of retro dual space arcade game here. We'll just select this one here. So this will download it as an SKP or a SketchUp file. If you want to preview, you can just click the 3D model there, and it'll load up here, and you can kind of just rotate around if you want. Now, when you download SketchUp files, I recommend using SketchUp 2015 at this point here, because we haven't updated for a couple of years our SketchUp compatibility, but we probably will do that in the near future here. Okay, so there's your nice 3D view of your object there. Let's just go ahead and download it. Again, SketchUp 2015 model, like I mentioned. There's our arcade space duel.skp. Show that in the folder there. And let's bring that into 3D Exchange. Okay, same thing. We don't want to export the previous data there. So a couple quick things about this arcade machine here. You'll notice on a lot of SketchUp files will have a lot of different faces. You can notice on the left side hierarchy here in the scene tree, there's a lot of different faces. Now, what you want to do to kind of avoid, having a prop that has too many faces or too many materials, separate materials, because it really lags resources. The more items you have here, a lot of these items here they share the same material. So, for example, this side of the machine will have the exact same material as this side of the machine. Okay, but they're actually two separate objects in our scene tree. I forget which ones they are. You can deselect these and kind of see which ones are which. I totally forget. Okay, there's even for the individual buttons, there's individual buttons here as well. You can see if I zoom in right there. This one here is the single button right there, okay? So, obviously it's, not ideal. So, again, what we can do as well is we can smooth it out before we move on as well. But before we smooth everything out, what I'm going to do is just go over here, make sure you select the parent item in the hierarchy and go to Merge Identical. Okay, that's going to merge all the materials. You can see now we have a much more clean and optimized mesh here. Okay, so once you've done that, again, just shift select all the faces hit there, and then just auto smooth that vertex out there, and that'll make those buttons a little bit smoother, hopefully. Okay, there you go. So the buttons aren't as jagged as they were anymore. Okay, pretty simple stuff. Let's go ahead and continue on, then we'll just go ahead and apply it to iClone. And bop, there we go, right in the middle of our scene. We have our nice arcade machine. And let's bring it over to the edge here under the stairs. All right. I'm going to use the E hotkey to rotate it. Let's just actually rotate it 90 degrees, I think. Yeah, 90 degrees. Now, one thing that what happened there? Okay, 270, not 90. Okay. Now, one thing I forgot to mention as well here is in 3D Exchange, I forgot to harmonize the pivot point. So in 3D Exchange, you'll notice that the pivot, or right here, you'll notice the pivot point is at the bottom left here. So when you rotate it, it's kind of annoying because it'll rotate like that. Okay, so that's something you normally don't want. You can fix this in 3D Exchange by just going, selecting your object and aligning to the ground. Okay, so you should always do this: align to the ground, reset transform, and edit pivot point. I go to the bottom center normally. Okay. Looks good, bottom center. You can also go to scene root or pivot center. Okay, I just go to bottom center in most cases. And you can customize the position here as well under pivot transform. We'll just keep that right there. And so I'm going to actually delete this one that we have in iClone right now and just re-import it. And like this. Shabam. Where is it? There we go. Okay, so now we have the pivot point harmonized. Or optimized rather, and now we can go to 90 degrees. What is wrong with this thing? It's picky about the degree there. Okay, so anyways, we'll just go like this and bring it under the stairs right there. Okay, so boom, there we go. Okay, you wanted to have a whole row of machines. One thing you can do is you can actually go over here to what is it here? Align, okay, or rather, not, that's link. This is align, so you can align it to whatever you want as well. And there's also Control L, I believe. No, that's link. Control K, I believe, is what I wanted to go. Yeah, so Control K. It used to be on the toolbar here. I'm not sure what happened to it, but Control K will allow you to multiple duplicate arcades, and you can, if you want to create a whole row of arcades, you can do this just like that. Okay, so that's Control K, that hotkey. All right. Not really useful in this case, but I'll just cancel that. Just wanted to show you that process there. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply a couple things to this couple materials rather to our prop here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a material to the screen. Now, if you have a prop selected and you want to select a particular material on it, you can go over here to materials and you can, try to find which material you want through the list up here. Okay, you can see there's a lot of them, so it might take a little bit of time to kind of figure out what exactly you want. So the faster way to do it is actually use your picker tool here. You can also use the B hotkey, which I like to use. B hotkey, I'm going to select the screen right here. So the screen, front side right here, color material. There's nothing really there. Okay, it's just a blank gray screen right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click in the base color channel here, and I'm going to, these are the number of posters I was using before. Where is it here? I have a video under webinars. I believe it's in this folder here. Yep, there we go. Okay, so this is some silly video I found on my YouTube channel, and load that in. Okay, so now we have a video here. However, if we take a closer look, the video is tiled way too much. Okay, so if we play back, you'll see that it's tiled like a million times there. Okay, so what I want to do is under UV settings right here, under tiling, I'm going to use a value. I already kind of figured it out. 0.05 was the value I found that's closest to what I need. Okay, and that'll basically take over the entire screen right there. Okay, and so that's your tiling right there. You can also use your offset as well if you find the offset is a little bit bad. And there's also another, this water pool. I believe this is another part of the screen here. So I'm actually going to just delete this texture here. There we go. Okay, let's make this invisible here. There we go. We'll take that down. All right, so this is the problem when you get into the fun stuff of individual Google SketchUp files. You can let's just delete the entire thing there. All right, that should be okay. So let's take this one here and bring that opacity all the way up. There we go. Okay, so now we've have this lower screen on top. All right, and ambient color, diffuse color. We're not going to worry about that right now. You can also self-illuminate it as well. Okay, so this is self-illumination has to do with you can use that for global illumination as well, which Chris will talk about a little bit later. Okay, so there's our entire scene. And you'll also notice that, particularly right here, you'll notice that we need to change the offset a little bit as well. So under offset, again, we need to go here and adjust this value. You can just click it down like this. We can move it over a little bit. Okay, and let's just maybe a value of like negative 0.5. 5 will do. There you go. Okay, that works. That works for me. And then the V-axis here, we'll bring it down a little bit as well, just to center it on our screen here. Okay, so you want to make sure your video is kind of centered where you want it to be. And there we go. Now, unfortunately, what I've done here is you notice that the offset and the tiling, they're green text. And green text means that you can animate it. All right, so if I move down here to frame 0, you notice that the offset at frame 1 rather, is different from the offset that you'll notice the offset actually moves. Okay, so the way you can adjust this is going to press F3 to go into your timeline here, and I'm going to go here to my arcade space tool right here, and under video, what we need to do is go down here to materials under our arcade space tool right here, and under materials, there'll be a texture strength and a texture UV channel, or track rather, not a channel. Texture UV channel right here. So this is the frame that we adjusted all that UV setting. So all I want to do is just move this back to frame 1 there, and now you'll see that from frame 1 to all the subsequent frames we have the correct offset. Okay. All right. So that's that. That's how you can kind of adjust the UV settings and tiling for videos or textures. You can do the same thing as well. Let's throw in a material here. Particular, I'm going to focus on this grid. Now, this grid looks pretty okay, but we don't really have much of a 3D effect on the grid. It looks kind of just flat, to be honest with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close down the timeline right now. I'm going to go over here to my materials, or media folder rather. And in the materials library, I've downloaded a pack called the Substance Super Tools. Okay, so this is a really useful pack. I'd recommend checking it out for anyone who's has any interest in materials whatsoever. The Substance Super Tools pack is really useful. You can just Google Substance Super Tools for iClone and it'll probably pop up. I can just do that right now, I guess. Substance, Super Tools, iClone. In case anyone wants to, get a hold of this here, I'll throw it in the chat window. You can check it out on your own time. Okay, so chat window. There we go. All right, just posted that in the chat window for you guys. Okay, so the first super tool I'm going to apply is this B2M, which is kind of similar to the algorithmics bitmap to material program that you can actually use to create a substance material from a single diffuse texture. And you can see if I press the B hotkey again and just select this grid, all we have right now is just this base color diffuse channel. Okay, really simple stuff. What if I want to create a little bit of interesting textures or bump maps on there? Excuse me. What I can do is I can just click and drag that B2M super tool right onto there, and boom, it'll suddenly create a bump map, a roughness map, and ambient occlusion and displacement and all this stuff. And what I can do is I can take that displacement and I can bring it out or bring it in like this. Okay, and there's other values that you can modify down here as well. The values that you want to kind of focus on, I believe. There's depth balance under global. Okay, so here you can kind of see that we're adjusting it a little bit. Okay, and there's also, I believe, under height, you can probably, no, that's the other one that we want. Color, or yeah, relief. Relief is the one for the normal strength. Okay, so relief is the normal, and if I adjust the normal strength, you can see that if we bring it up to maximum value, I'll kind of try and zoom in here as much as I can. If we take that normal strength up like that, notice that we get a bit more of a three-dimensional feel to our grill there. We can also increase the fine details to get a bit more texture on our grid there as well. It's kind of hard to see, but hopefully you can kind of notice those differences right there. Anyway, just a really easy way to add additional channels to your texture maps. If you just have a simple diffuse texture, apply that B2M, you can modify all sorts of other cool stuff. Metallic and roughness values as well. You can make it more metallic and rough. But yeah, that's it. So I just want to show you that B2M feature right there. You can also notice it's a bit more three-dimensional when you kind of move around it as well, when you pan the camera around it. Okay, so the next thing we can do is I'm going to just apply a simple substance texture to the gray part of our arcade machine here. So I'm going to go back to materials here, and this one should be embedded with iClone. So you should have this one as well. I believe it's called metal. Is it metal? Okay, so there's a number of different metals right here. I think metal 2, I'll just apply this one. So just click and drag it directly onto the object right there. That might not be the one. Let's try and, I think there's a different one here. Maybe the metal plaque one. Not sure why it's getting so white. Let's just take the material there. Might need to adjust a couple other things here. All right, so it just applies this metal material right here. Oh, we need to change it to PBR, that's why. Okay. Huh. Okay. We might need to go into this substance folder right here. Okay, this one should be the one here. There's a metal right here, metal 003. This is the one I want to apply. So this one should also be included with iClone. I believe the ones outside the folder do not use PBR. I believe these ones use PBR. So these are the ones you want to apply in the iClone 7 environment. So let's go ahead and just apply this one. There you go. That's the one I wanted to apply there. Nice PBR metallic. But again, the tiling on this one is kind of messed up here. You can see the repeating pattern. So that's something that you don't want. So again, we can go refer to the UV tiling, 0.05, I think it was before. Try and keep something like that. Okay, so there you go. So, a nice metallic surface, although it looks a bit strange for this arcade machine to have such a gleaming metallic surface like that. So what I can do is just kind of tone things down a little bit. Let's just, we can actually take the base color and the bump map. Let's take the bump channel here. And if you want to adjust the strength of the bump channel, you can just bake the texture like that. And then you can just delete it if you want. Okay, so we don't want to have a bump map on there. The base color, we can bake that as well. And then take the strength down like this. Okay, so if you don't want all those, gritty kind of parts right there, you can just take the strength down like that, make it a bit more shiny. I'm actually going to keep those because we're going to adjust it in a different way. I'm going to go here to adjust color, and I'm going to take that brightness down like this, and maybe had a bit more saturation there. All right, and we don't want purple. Let's try and use something like, oh gosh, that's too bad. Okay, we're gonna have to take the contrast down as well, maybe. A little bit too much saturation there. All right, I like the purple color, but I don't like all the stuff here, so we're gonna have to go in to the base color here and just take that strength all the way down there, or else maybe even delete the map right there. Oops, that's not gonna work. I think we can also go down here to the settings and change our ambient color to something darker. And I don't want reflection on this. Here's where we can modify it a little bit more. So we have all those channels, basic parameters right here. So let's take the age down there, and metal roughness. Bring that up a little bit. There you go. Now it looks a bit more, aged. Okay, like an old 1980s arcade machine. All right, a little bit purple for my taste, but we'll just run with it. And then I can go ahead and apply a couple of substances to these panels right here. I'm going to go to substance power 200. So this is a collection of substances you can find on the content store as well. And there's one under architecture, I believe. Architecture and street. There's a cool one with stripes for like street signs and stuff. There you go, this one right here. I'll just apply it to that one and apply it to this one. And you'll see they'll have different colors because the diffuse channels have different original colors as well. Okay, so we get some cool looking stripes on there. All right, cool stuff. So we've kind of improved the look of our machine. One final thing I'm going to do is kind of launch the picture on the side. We can launch it in Photoshop and maybe add something to it if we want. So again, press the B hotkey, select that, and you can see the base color channel right here. And we'll just launch her in Photoshop. And what you can do is, let's just do something creative, like maybe add some, I have a maple leaf brush here, okay? If we wanted to, we could add some, red maple leaves on the side here. My Canadian side is kind of showing through here. All right, so you can throw it on. It doesn't really matter the white section here, so if you wanted to have some, red maple leaves on the side, you can go ahead and do that. Save that out. And there you go. Okay, so I'm not sure why you want maple leaves over the side there, but there you go. It's kind of the Canadian version of the Space Invaders game right there. Let's just close down our 3D Exchange. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so that's all I wanted to do to kind of modify this thing. We're kind of running out of time here, guys, so I'm just going to quickly run through the next couple of things here. I'm going to, first of all, I'll again show you how to download something from the marketplace, City Marketplace as well. So that desk, like I mentioned before, just go to city.reallusion.com/marketplace, okay? And you'll find your 3D content here for iClone. And there's a really cool developer that I have been kind of using his stuff in a lot of my own side projects. You can find him by just searching 3D Everything. Okay, some new stuff in the marketplace. And the pack in particular I'm looking for is a Geek Room pack. So I just typed in 3D Everything Geek in the keyword section there. And here's the Geeks Room that I'm looking for. All right, so if you want to take a look at all the stuff that comes with this pack, you can just go ahead and click on these thumbnails here, and you can see there's basically everything you see here comes with this pack. Really well worth it. All his stuff is really high level PBR textures and everything as well. So really well worth it. And then if you want to download this, just go down to download. Gosh, I haven't done this in a while. How do I buy this darn thing? Okay, yeah, add to your cart, right. Add to the shopping cart. Gosh, it's been a while. I use a different method to download stuff, so yeah, I'm not stupid. I just kind of haven't done this in a long time. Go to add to your cart, and then so on and so forth. Okay, so after you've done that, then what you want to do is go to your iClone. It'll go through a whole download process, and then you want to go to iClone, and it'll down to your props folder, and in the template tab right here under props. You can, if your thumbnails are too big on the side here, by the way, you can press Control-1 to get the different view, to toggle through these different views, Control-1. I personally just like this view, the large view, because I hate you can't see all the text. I hate that part. So I like to have the big icon so I can see most of the text and maybe just bring it over here and have two levels in folders like the props where there's so much stuff. And then 3D everything right here and Geeks Room. And there's a nice cool desk in here somewhere. Where is the desk? Did it disappear? Or am I just blind? Oh, here it is, desk. Okay, the desk with all the object on it. You can just bring that in by clicking and dragging, and we'll just put it in the corner over here. And you can see a pretty cool looking desk, all right? The cool thing about this is that you can actually, there's stuff on the monitors, okay? So if you press B and pick your monitor stuff there, you can see the diffuse right there. Let's just turn off the auxiliary lights for now. Here we go. And you can add like a glow map. One way you can do this is you can add self-illumination as well. So self-illumination like this, all right, for the diffuse channel, and it'll light up like this. Another thing you can do is add a glow map in the glow channel. Okay, so just double click on the glow channel. You can load in whatever you want, like this cold one right here, and it'll kind of create this kind of aura. You can adjust the strength up and down to create a result like this. Now, when you have global illumination active, let's just activate that real quick here. Chris will kind of show you a bit more about this, but when you have global illumination active, you can adjust the values here for global illumination, like your bounce strength and stuff. And you can see when we do that, notice that the desk, let's bring our ambient occlusion, ambient light color down here. So you can notice that the desk becomes green once we've increased that bounce strength. Okay, just a really quick example. Chris will show you a lot more detail on this. Okay, so you can get that glow. So it's kind of bouncing, light's bouncing onto the desk there. So very realistic stuff. And like I mentioned, if you're curious about that, it's kind of a little teaser for you there. You can learn more about that in part 3 of the webinar and so on and so forth. Let's go back to our auxiliary light here so we can see everything. And again, you can do the same thing with the other screen as well. Just add a glow map and whatnot, and then we're good from there. Okay, now I'm going to do one more quick thing, and then we're going to go to quickly do the character creator before we move on to the Q&A session. Okay, so we're running out of time here. For this door here, I'm going to add some aging to this door really quick using another cool substance super tool here. Let's go back to our materials and substance super tools. And this one here is the mixer. Okay, so there's a PBR mixer, and I'm just gonna click and drag that onto our door here. This one kind of allows you to mix, different separate effects onto one particular object. Okay, so let's go with that selected. Now you can see we have the base color and all this stuff, all the substance little icons in the bottom left of our texture channels there. Let's go down here to the stuff that you can modify. So materials, there's 3 separate materials. There's a base material right here. Okay, so on the base material, we can adjust things like we can add some blemishes or some gashes. Okay, it can enable gashes, so it looks like some crazy zombie who started attacking this door or something. You can also change the pattern from claw marks to cuts or something like that, from cuts to scrapes and scratches. Okay, so I like the scratches because they're a bit more subtle. You can adjust the size of those scratches. All right, if I zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see it a bit better right there, and you can tile that, have it more or tiled less or tiled more. Okay, so again, very, very subtle effect right here, those scratches. And if we move from side to side, you can kind of see the 3-dimensional effect on them as well. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. Throw in some gashes there, throw in some dirtiness as well. Let's make it dirty, not that dirty. Let's kind of take the amount of dirt down a little bit. Okay, so you can kind of see that Let's use a sparse dirt. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's a very sensitive slider, I guess. Okay, so a little bit too much. And normal intensity to bring that down. And you can change the color of the dirt as well. Want to make it a bit more of a lighter colored dirt, you can do so. Okay, so this is a little bit too much dirt for my taste, but again, the slider is really sensitive, I guess. All right, and let's just bring it to a bit more of a value similar to the door color, I guess. Take that saturation down to like 50. There we go. Okay, so now it looks like an aged kind of like, kind of an old moldy door like this. There's another one, aside from dirt, blemishes maybe. And not sure if the blemishes are in there anywhere. But yeah, there's lots of different stuff that you can adjust here. You can also tweak the values here as well. Normal intensity. Okay, I'm not going to do too much on this one. Luminosity and hue. Okay, so these are all the same values that you have in your old adjust color panel there. Right, but so now we kind of have a nice, weirdly painted door with some mold growing on it and some scratches along the side and all that stuff as well. Okay, so that's just kind of a way you can mix stuff in there. And there's, like I said, there's 3 different layers here. So right now we're only in the base layer, and then there's the red layer as well. So if you wanted to add, something like paint peel on top of that. Now the problem with this particular texture or this particular object here is it doesn't have a color ID map. Okay, so stuff like paint peel and rust and stuff like this, you're not going to have the best result with this edge wear and stuff as well. It doesn't know where the edge is. Okay, so stuff like this, you need a color ID map, and if you can make that yourself in Photoshop, but that's a whole other topic. Okay, but we have a couple minutes left to go into Character Creator, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm running super late here. All right, so I'm going to show you how to whip up a quick character in Character Creator. Let's go back into iClone and enable our walls here again. Make our walls visible. There you go. Okay, so there's the door. We can turn off the auxiliary light here. Maybe give ourselves some, we have the global illumination there. So you can see actually the arcade machine has some global illumination from the video as well. We can see that light off in the distance. Let's just kind of create a light here. And all right, there we go. Just to give ourselves, some light maybe coming in from the window or something like that. I'm using the / key, by the way. If you have your light selected, you can use the / key to rotate the direction of your light. Really useful little tip there. Okay, here we go. Let's whip up a guy in Character Creator in like a couple minutes here. Going over here to the morphs. All right, so here's where you can find your character's body morphs. I'm just going to use base male. This one should be embedded with iClone, or not iClone, with Character Creator rather. Okay. And there you go. So let's actually close down Photoshop here. It's kind of lagging our computer. And so for morphs, this is where I normally start off, is like morphs. So kind of adjusting the character's body shape. You can go over here to morphs, and you can, there's all sorts of different, things that you can adjust, all sorts of different values here. You can make your guy like a bodybuilder, for example, or a heavy set like this. All right. Apologies for using this guy with his with women's underwear, but if you want to remove stuff, you can just right-click on it and select any object and just go ahead and delete it like that. All right, so now he's just wearing women's underwear. Let's give him some pants in just a moment here, but I'm going to focus on the face. Okay, so let's zoom in on the face real quick. I'm going to change that back to auxiliary in iClone. This is what's causing the slowdown. And so there's head morphs as well. So we'll go over here to head morphs, and there's a kind of a creepy head morph I found down here, like male B. This one looks pretty creepy. There you go. And this guy looks super creepy. And then we'll just throw on some clothes over top of him here. So under clothing, I'm going to go to pants and right here. And there's a professional outfits pack that you can purchase from the content store as well. Just throw some slacks on him here. I'm going to create like an evil looking kind of gangster dude. Let's throw on a shirt. Under professional outfits as well, there is open collar, closed collar. Oh no, that's like the McDonald's shirt. Closed collar, long sleeve shirt. We'll just throw on a white shirt like this here. We're gonna dress them up nice and fancy. And then there's coats under professional outfits. Business suit, we'll just throw in a nice blazer on top of that here. All right, maybe give them some shoes. Under shoes right here. Again, if you have any questions about character creators, I know it's not the focus of this webinar, but I'm just going to throw on some stuff real quick here. Leather shoes. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask me. We're going to end this off in just a couple minutes here. And we'll give them some hair as well. So under hair, I believe under party fun, there is a useful hat, short hair for characters with a hat, because I'm going to give them a hat in just a moment here. It looks very stern and one might say evil. All right, then we're going to go over here to accessories, and under accessories, I think under party fun, there's some like kind of cool, you use a bowler hat maybe. Bowler hat or a fedora. Well, let's give him the bowler hat just to mix things up a little bit. All right, there we go. Looks like a 1930s, 1920s kind of gangster. And let's give him a Chaplin mustache or a Hitler mustache, I guess. We can do that as well. It was pretty popular back in the day, I imagine. Or we can also use a handlebar mustache as well. So this is a separate content pack as well, just so you guys are aware. I believe there's a handlebar mustache somewhere in here, which I tend to prefer. There we go. Very suave indeed. Okay, now, and then for clothing, we'll go to accessories. I believe under professional outfits, there's thick neckties. And we'll just throw a nice FBI like necktie in there as well. Boom. All right, there we go. So now he's looking like a Sherlock Holmes type. What's that guy? Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so the character's done. Again, there's tons of other stuff you can go into, but I'm not going to worry about it. Just kind of want to whip a character together in a few minutes here. Let's give him some expanded cheekbones there. Make those cheekbones sharper. And give him a thinner chin. All right, and thinner lips. Okay, good enough. We're going to work with that. You can go on for ages with this kind of stuff. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and load him into iClone. Send character to iClone, this button up here, and I'll show you this nefarious looking fellow in iClone. Give him a pose in just a moment. All right, there he is. And the content, motions over here, motions and pose. Let's just give him like a idle pose. There we go. Or maybe like a cooler pose. All right, so there you go. Standing with his hands on his waist right there. Let's have him face this way. There we go. And then we can turn off our auxiliary lights, and there you go. Boom, looks really evil and mysterious. Let's just rotate our light a little bit this way. There you go. Oh, wow. Okay, maybe something like that'll do. All right, so there's our dude. All right, there's our bowler, our evil bowler dude. And we're going to see him in part 2 and part 3 of this webinar series. And Chris will make him look fancy schmancy in part 3. And in part 2, we're just going to animate his face. We're going to talk about some facial animation, some lip syncing, and basically the basics of iClone animation in part 2 of this webinar series. So yeah, we're a little bit over, about 12 minutes over, so apologies for that, guys. I'm going to go through the questions now. So if you have any questions, now is your chance to get your questions answered. I'm going to go through the questions section here. So feel free to put all your questions in there, and we'll get to those right now. Looks like we already have a bunch. So, okay, first one's from John. So John asked a good question. So the next 2 webinars that so part 2 and part 3, in case you're not aware, are we're charging for those $10. So if you want to attend those, those are $10 per lesson there. Now we've already done these in the past. So John's asking, will they be the same ones as we did 2 months ago? They're basically the same. Just we have such high demand for this webinar series. People want to kind of get new tips and ask new questions every time. So we kind of repeat the webinar series a few times, just for those who weren't able to catch it the first time. We're also going to be adjusting our time zones a little bit. We're going to be doing it a little bit earlier, probably about 5 hours earlier than this one. We've had a lot of requests from our European users for that. So for all you guys over there in Germany, UK, and stuff, there is hope. You don't have to stay up until 2 in the morning to to watch me blabber on about creating a scene. Now we're going to have it a little bit more of a reasonable hour for you guys. Okay, so it is the same process that we've gone through for the previous webinar series. Just keep that in mind, guys. And if you've already attended part 2 and part 3, it's going to be pretty much the same, right? Maybe a few new hints here and there. And we do have the new curve editor as well, which we won't get into too much, but we'll have a webinar for the curve editor at the end of this month, I believe. We're going to try and fit it in at the end of this month, and Chris will be helping with that as well. All right, so Hewa says thanks for everything. Thanks, Hewa, for attending. Thanks for yeah. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. I always like to kind of share knowledge about iClone and as much as I know, and kind of get things going for people. All right, so we have a lot of people here just saying hi. So hey to everyone who said hi to me at the beginning of the webinar. Didn't get a chance to say hi earlier. Okay, so Helene asks a question. Do you need 3D Exchange pipeline to export the chairs? Yeah, if you want to export anything to FBX from 3D Exchange, well, the way I did it is I did it from iClone. I think it's kind of like a workaround, to be honest. If you don't have the pipeline version of 3D Exchange, you won't be able to export those, I believe. I believe that applies to iClone as well, because I think it just, they connect somehow. I'm not sure. I've never actually tried that. But generally the rule is that if you want to export stuff, FBX, outside of iClone, you'll need the pipeline version. The Pro version is for importing anything in. The pipeline version is for exporting anything out. And I believe that also applies to props. Okay, so I had a question from Joel. These extra instances don't take up extra resources. I'm not sure what instances you had mentioned there. All right, so maybe if you want to clarify, Joel, the instances you're talking about, and I can get a little bit more information for you there. Okay, Steven asks, is it possible to make a mask in a setting? For example, if I had a title or lettering and wanted flames to show in the letters but not the walls. A mask. Oh, so like, yeah, like a mask, like After Effects, I think you're talking about. We don't do masks. Well, there is like an opacity mask in iClone if you want to use that. We are going to be launching a Popcorn Effects plugin, which I'd highly recommend for what you're talking about. There's some really cool like text effects and masks and all this stuff with Popcorn Effects. But the masks in general in iClone, you can't really animate them, unfortunately. So if I wanted to add a mask to my character's skin, for example, you would use the opacity channel right here. You'd apply a mask to that opacity channel. So if I let's select his head, for example. We're going to mess around with the head on his skin there, or the skin on his head there. If we wanted to, change the opacity of his head, mask out, part of his head for some reason, if we wanted part of his head to be transparent, then, I would take the black. Just totally doing this at random here. So let's make sure we have a larger, there we go. Whoa, holy smokes. All right, so let's just randomly draw some black, because I don't know the UV mapping for the head. So let's go ahead and just save this opacity mask onto our character's head. Here we go. Ooh, that's horrible. Okay, so that's masking using the opacity channel for your character, and there you go. He has a see-through head now. Gosh, that's terrible. Let's just undo that. All right, restored his head. Okay. So that's how you would use masking. Now, for what you're talking about, for specialized text and everything like that, animated. Unfortunately, you can't animate the opacity channel. You can animate the strength of it, like this, but you can't animate anything else on the position and all that stuff. So for masking, like dynamic masking, I'd recommend using the upcoming Popcorn Effects plugin for that. Hopefully that answers your question there, Steve. If you have any further questions, again, you guys can always email me at kai@reallusion.com as well. You said another example, a picture frame with video. Picture frame with video, masking it out. Yeah, just basically using that same opacity texture channel there. That's how you would kind of work with it. Again, you can email me privately if you have a specific example that you want to run through. So Annie asks, when you export from 3D Exchange, do you often have lights attached to the props? Oh yeah, okay. So this is a good mention here from Annie. When you're exporting stuff from 3D Exchange, sometimes there's animations on props and stuff. It depends on where they come from. Always try to make your props lean and mean. Just bring things a little bit just to kind of optimize the resources that they take and reduce file size. Props don't have lights attached to them though. Yeah, if there's any lights attached to a prop, just remove them. You don't need lights attached to your prop because they won't have any effect in other programs. They'll only be effective in iClone. Okay, so Dwayne has a good point here. It would be great to have a printable template of all the keyboard commands. So for Dwayne, I'll give you a quick example here. You can go to your online manual, in iClone under Help, and there is a there's a keyboards shortcuts table right here. Okay, so all these items right here. So if you're having trouble following all the hotkeys I use, because I kind of get ahead of myself sometimes and use too many hotkeys and go a little bit too fast. But yeah, you can find all the global shortcuts in here. So for Dwayne, that's a good place to check. Just go to File, Help, and then under here, under Keyboard Shortcuts, you'll find timeline shortcuts in different panels, and global shortcuts. All right, so Dwayne has mentioned that he's experimenting with celebrity faces in Character Creator 2. I find personally that creating heads that look exactly like celebrities is super hard for me. I don't know, it's just something I can't figure out myself. I know there's some really good guys who are really good at it. Some of you may know 3D Test or Mike Sherwood on YouTube. 3D Test, his name is. He's also did our facial mocap webinar last month. He did a facial mocap webinar, October actually it was. He's really good at that stuff. Like he has a perfect, like Donald Trump. He has a perfect. Who else did he have? Like after he did like a Hillary Clinton and then Donald Trump for the election and stuff, and it was really awesome. Michael Sherwood, recommend taking a look at his stuff. 3D Test on YouTube. But you type in 3D Test iClone. Yeah, so there you go. This guy right here, 3D Test. I'll throw his YouTube channel in there as well, so you can see the really amazing Donald Trump he did. I think that's Angelina Jolie there and Bruce Lee. I'll throw this in the chat window for you guys here as well, his YouTube channel. All right, so Charles asks here, could you have exported the chairs to OBJ in order to make the prop modifications? Yeah, OBJ works as well. But I think OBJ, you also need the pipeline version as well, because you mentioned here that FBX is only available to the pipeline users. I think you need the pipeline to export OBJ as well. You basically need the pipeline to export anything, as far as I know. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's the general rule. And there's maybe like an addition comparison here for oh no, it's not, it's too old. Yeah, we're in the content store now. There's like an addition comparison that shows you exactly what you can do with each version. Oh, what am I doing here? I go over here, 3D Animation, 3D Exchange, and overview. Hold on. Somewhere on this page here in the 3D Exchange, you should find the pipeline. Yeah, so basically anything that you want to export, there should be a table somewhere around here. I haven't been to this page in a while, so they may have updated it. Okay, so here we go, edition comparison right here. So it's on this page right here. So you can find all the stuff, export FBX. You need the 3D Exchange pipeline. Okay, so this is pipeline right here, trial and pipeline right here. So you do need the pipeline version to do that. I'm like 99% sure. If you don't, I'd be really surprised. We may change that in the future because 3D Exchange might become a plugin actually of iClone in the future. So I'm not sure where that's going, but I can't mention too much about that right now, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's, as far as I know, that's the rule. That's the rule that we go by, the golden rule. Richard asks, any chance for a character creator webinar at some point? Yeah, definitely. If you want a character creator webinar, just fill out the survey and give us your suggestions. We can probably do another character creator webinar in the future. I've done a number of different ones in the past, and if you search under character creator webinar on YouTube, you'll probably be able to find some of the older ones that we've done. When Character Creator 1 first came out, we did a whole bunch of them, I remember, but there is some updates, so we may do one in the near future. All right. All right, so Hiwa asks, why is there no way for importing Alembic files to iClone by using 3D Exchange? There's an exporting for simulation cloth from iClone. The file import to 3D Exchange converts to file. Yeah, so this is kind of a, he was asking about importing Alembic files into iClone. Generally, the only reason you want to use an Alembic file with iClone is if you want to export the physics, the physics, the cloth physics from your iClone character or your iClone prop and stuff. So we don't have much in terms of importing Alembic files, although you can do that, but the Alembic file is useful for storing that physics data exported from iClone. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't actually done that much of that myself. I did a couple of Alembic tutorials. Oh, probably it's over a year ago now. But as far as I can remember, we only used Alembic for exporting the physics results from iClone into other programs. Okay, so I've done it to Unreal a couple of times myself, using the Alembic export into the Unreal game engine. But I haven't done any importing into iClone, so I can't really give you any details on that, unfortunately, whether or not we're going to have that in the future. But it is an interesting idea. But currently, we're only one way on that. So, yeah. So Don asks, "Will we be getting these videos?" Yeah, we're going to send you the video links, Don. So no worries if you haven't, if you've kind of been, browsing other stuff while I've been kind of working, just blabbing away on this webinar here. We'll be sending you the videos afterwards as well, so no need to worry. You can go through it and pause it on your own time if I'm going a little bit too fast. So another Don asks, Don Evelyn asks, is the rendering quality just as clean as for cartoon creation? Yeah, I can honestly tell you that the rendering quality for iClone 7 is spectacular if you know how to do it. If you know how to optimize the lighting and the textures and everything like that, which Chris will touch on in the third part of this webinar series, like I mentioned before. Rick James, someone named Rick James, cool name, Rick James. Using pop video, how can I add a real person into iClone? Pop video, you need, first of all, you need the transparent pop video file of your dude, your subject or whatever. And pop video, there's a number of different tutorials on pop video on our YouTube channel. We did I think 15 of them or something. So I'd recommend just checking, typing in like Reallusion pop video or something. I think we probably have a pop video playlist, maybe. Oh gosh, nope. Reallusion pop video playlist. Okay, so yeah, there may not be a playlist, but just type in a Reallusion pop video playlist and you'll find all of our different video files right here. There's a number of different ones. And I think this dynamic timeline masking is the one that you're probably looking for right here. So just Google that, and yeah, don't spend too much time with pop video. Oh gosh, my questions panel went all wacky here. Okay, we're back in action here. Okay, so okay, Don is kind of clarifying here. Star Wars, Rebels, or Clone Wars. Yeah, definitely you can do that quality in iClone. No worries. We've done like all kinds of stuff like that. Gosh, I can't give you any specific examples right now, but on our website, there's lots of, basically everything on our website is rendered using iClone, like most of it. So that's the kind of quality you can achieve if you know what you're doing. So Jason De La Torre asks, when getting files from 3D Warehouse, do you suggest always using SketchUp file versus FBX or other formats to bring into 3D Exchange? Personally, I like FBX. I mean, FBX is the universal format for most, meshes or most props or characters. I always use FBX if I get a chance. Like I mentioned earlier, SketchUp files tend to have too many faces on them, and it really depends on who created them. They can be really complex and really weird. Like sometimes the materials and the UV mapping can be really strange and react in really bizarre ways when you're trying to apply materials and stuff to it. It's really hit and miss with SketchUp files, because a lot of the SketchUp files, let's be honest, on 3D Warehouse are like students in their first year who created this model for their first year exam or something like that, and yeah, they're not AAA game quality models, obviously. So a lot of the stuff can be disorganized and confusing. So I tend to try to use FBX because it's a little bit generally. I found that they're generally more universal in my experience. Okay, so Don De Corcel asks, can 3D Exchange import a complex DAS prop like a town or a house? Yes, definitely. 3D Exchange can import everything. The one thing you want to be aware of is if you're importing a complex DAS prop like an entire town or a house, that's going to be a lot of polygons, and so it may run very slow depending on your computer. I've imported entire Maya scenes into iClone, and it just went super slow. But that was a couple of years ago. I believe the performance may have improved, but if it does run slow like that, you can import it in separate parts as well, which is probably the more prudent way to do it if you're experiencing crazy lag like that or crashes or anything. But yeah, I'd recommend being aware at least of the amount of polygons that you're importing in there. Okay, so Karen asks, can you please tell us where we can re-see this webinar online? Yeah, we'll be sending you guys an email. Okay, so we'll be sending an email to you to show you where you can. We'll provide a link to where you can watch this again online. No worries. Again, you can always email me as well, kai@reallusion.com, if you have any questions that I can answer specifically for you. So Zola asks, when is webinar part 2? Actually tomorrow. So we're doing part 2 of this webinar series tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, and part 3 will be the same time, same channel, same time on the following day. So tomorrow's Wednesday in Canada, where I am, and Thursday will be Chris, otherwise known as Stuck on 3D. That's his part on Thursday. So Elijah asks, I have iClone 7 with 3D Exchange 6 pipeline. Do I need to upgrade to 3D Exchange pipeline to export? Well, you have 3D Exchange 6 pipeline. Oh, yeah. Good question. I think that you do to export iClone 7 stuff to via 3D Exchange. I think you need 3D Exchange 7 pipeline, but you can get a pretty good deal on that. There's an upgrade price, like a special upgrade price. I think it's like half the price or something like that of the if you just buy it brand new. So just go on the Reallusion site and just put it into your shopping cart or whatever, and check it out. See the price that you get, and you can also email our sales department. It's sales@reallusion.com, and they can provide you with some more detailed information on upgrade pricing and stuff. But I think generally, if you just put it in your cart, if you're signed into your account and you put it in your cart in the Reallusion site, it'll give you the special upgrade pricing automatically. Okay, so Ilyas asks, can 3D exchange import cameras into iClone from third-party apps such as MayaMax and blah, blah, blah? Yes, so now we've with iClone 7, we've done one-to-one camera import and export from programs such as Maya. This is a huge demand that we had earlier in earlier versions of iClone. Like, guys, can you please allow us to import in, the professional cameras for previs from Maya and stuff like that? So yes, we do have the ability to do that now, and I think the import is FBX's. We have a tutorial on that. I think I used Maya to do that actually. Let's see if it comes up right here. Yeah, this is the one right here, importing cameras from Maya. So I'll just throw this this tutorial in there for you, for Ilyas there, if you want to just link to this. I'll put it in the chat window there. All right, so this kind of show you the process there. It's pretty simple, and hopefully that helps you out there. So Don asks, I would like to see a character creator webinar for creating cartoon characters. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. One thing I can recommend for you, Don, is taking a look at the Toka Motion character morphs on Character Creator. So Toka Motion character, whoops. You can see I like to use Google a lot there. This one here, stylized character morphs. So these morph sliders, they're basically like toon type characters. A number of different characters here. You can see like this dude right here, or this guy right here. Some really kind of cool, comical looking characters. And you can actually achieve this look with a single slider. So if I go back into Character Creator, where you can find these sliders, once you purchase and download them, you can go to like full body. We can change this guy like Peter, for example. All right, so here he's become a lot more cartoon-like, and obviously you'd want to modify the textures on the face and everything, make them a lot more flat and cartoon-like as opposed to the realistic freckles and everything. But you can basically just use these sliders. You can turn into there's your female with the mustache, okay, and this Max guy with his muscular character. All right, so all these sliders, again, I'm just using a single slider, which is really cool. And there's separate ones for the face and the body as well. And you can also create your own morph sliders, and there's tutorials on how to do that as well. But yeah, I recommend checking that out, Don. But thanks for the suggestion. We'll try and get to that in the future, I think. Oh gosh, okay. So Erica asks, I upgraded from iClone 6 to 7, so I have 3D Exchange 6. Do I need to upgrade to 7 in order to work with 7? Yeah, I think this is the same question as Ilyas had before. I think you do have to upgrade to 7 to export iClone 7 props, or upload to 3D Exchange 7 rather to export iClone 7 props that you've created or anything like that. Yeah, there'll be a special upgrade price for anyone who has version 6. Does iClone use a reference file preview and instances like what you will see in Maya? Yeah, so I'm not sure what you mean there. iClone user reference file preview instances done. So maybe you can clarify that, or just email me later, because we're kind of going overtime. We're about half an hour overtime right now. So I'm going to kind of just answer the last couple of questions here. There. Don asks as well, can I create my own morph sliders? Yes, you can do that as well. There's tutorials on how to do that. I don't really know where they are. Just maybe type in Google like iClone or Character Creator Morph Creation or something like that. You should be able to find it. All right, but I think we're going to sign off there because we're really over time, guys. And again, apologies for taking a long time on the other stuff in the demo. But yeah, again, make sure you fill out the survey for us, please, and we'll give you 10% off the content store once you do that. I really hope to see you in part 2 and part 3 of the webinar series. We'll talk about the animation and the the scene beautification and scene refinement and all that other fun stuff. And again, make sure you check your emails for the survey and everything. Really appreciate having you guys here for this webinar. So hopefully you learned a lot, and hopefully we'll see you in future webinars. And check out our forums at forum.reallusion.com as well. If you have any questions you want to ask our community, we have a really good community of users that are, basically on the forums almost 24/7, it seems, answering questions for a lot of beginner users. So thanks to our veteran users for that, and suggestions to our new users to go in there and get active in the forums as well. All right, so yeah, I think we'll end it off there. So it's dinner time for me. Not sure where you guys are in the world, but hopefully you have a good evening or morning or afternoon or whatever time it is where you are. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, and Thursday as well. All right, bye-bye.